Hi everyone, and welcome to episode 17 of the Spark Podcast. My name is Jack, I'll be your host, and today we're going to talk about the ocean. And when I say the ocean, I really mean big bodies of water. Mostly the ocean, but I'm going to include rivers, lakes, lagoons, whatever, inside in that as well. I'm planning on this being a multi-part series, maybe not in a row, might spread it out with a few shows in between, but today is going to be part one, which will be my experience with large bodies of water and my feelings towards them, mostly because I kind of grew up in the water or at least around the water. Anyone who doesn't know, when I was younger I spent most of my summers down in a little place called Garrettstown in Cork. It's a little kind of a seaside town, you'd call it. Lots of people stay there with their caravans. Gorgeous place. I didn't appreciate it enough when I was there. Now I kind of miss it because it was my access to the ocean, and I love the ocean. I really do. It's one of the more beautiful, serene places I've ever been, and I know it's such a it's hard, it's difficult to think of the ocean as a place, but it is. It's a different world, the ocean is, and I've done pretty much everything you could think of with big bodies of water. I've done snorkeling, I've done scuba diving. I'm a registered scuba diver, which is strange in Ireland. I don't know a lot. I don't really know anyone else who has their license. I got that in Tunisia, weirdly enough, but we'll talk about that later. I've surfed, I've swam, I've snorkeled, I've bodyboarded, I have attempted wakeboarding. I'm very bad at it. I've water skied. I've never jet skied. I'd like to give it a go, but I've just kind of read that it's really bad for your brain. Oh, excuse me. That was kind of a hiccup / swallow that kind of hurt a little bit. If I sound a bit groggy, it's because I am. This is the earliest I've ever recorded a podcast. It's currently 5 to 8 in the morning on a Saturday. I just woke up and I was like, fuck it, I'm just going to do this podcast and we're going to get it out of the way and I'm going to enjoy it and I'm just going to speak from the hip. I have no script. I'm just going to basically talk about my own personal experience with it, because as I said, I love the ocean, but it scares the fuck out of me at the same time because I know too much. I'm just going to tell you a few stories of my experiences with the ocean, and I'm going to be vaguely chronological, and a lot of these stories have a lot to do with what the ocean and what big bodies of water can do to you. It's kind of scary. Like, people underestimate the power of water, of moving water. It's so terrifying. Ankle deep water going 12 miles an hour, which isn't fast, is more than enough to knock you off your feet. There's nothing really you can do about it. It's just such a mass of it's such a mass. It's just a big mass of matter that's just moving, and it'll take you with it. There's, like, I don't care how big and strong you are, the ocean's stronger than you are. The ocean is stronger than all of us are together. It's literally most of the planet. You can't fight that. Case in point, rip currents. If you know how to use a rip current, they're very handy if you're surfing. What a rip current is when the waves come in, they usually kind of come in at an angle, and where they meet, the water comes back out to the ocean. So waves bring the water in to the shore, and a rip current pulls the water back out. You can usually see them either on sides of a beach or like in the middle. You can't see them unless you know what you're looking for. There's just kind of a certain pattern of the surface of the water, and you know to either avoid it or know how to use it. If you're not used to them, avoid at all costs, because they will pull you out to sea straight away and you won't be able to do anything about it. Side note, if you are ever caught in a rip current, try not to swim against it. Swim diagonally out of it, like either direction. So if it's pulling you back and you're facing the shore, swim 45 degrees to your right or 45 degrees to your left. If you try to swim against it, you're just going to get tired. You will drown, or you're going to get tired. Your legs will give up, your arms will give up, and you're going to drown. You're going to die. If no one's there to save you, you're fucked. You can't fight the ocean. You just can't. You can coerce yourself to move slightly away from the rip current, but you can't fight it. It's going to pull you, and it's not going to stop until you're out in the middle of the ocean. That's another way to do it as well, is to wait until it pulls you out. Try to keep your head above water, and just wait until it starts pulling you out, then swim to the side and then swim in. But that's only if you're a very strong, experienced swimmer, because they can pull you out for hundreds of meters. And hundreds of meters walking is fine, but hundreds of meters of swimming is it's a different beast, man. If you're not used to it, you will be very tired, and like I said, your muscles, your legs will give out, your arms will give out, and you could drown. So try to avoid rip currents if you don't know what you're doing, and try to avoid rip currents if you do know what you're doing. If you can, just avoid them. That being said, they are kind of handy for surfers who go after the big waves that are slightly deeper. So if you catch a wave and head on into the shore on your wave, enjoying yourself, and you get in and then you have to get back out, the easiest way to do that is to kind of catch the rip current on the way back out and try and stay on the edge of it, and it'll pull you enough out to the ocean, out to where the waves are, and then you just kind of jump off. I say jump off, I mean you swim at that 45 degrees angle to get out of it. Very dangerous. I'm just not cool. I always have a tinge of fear when I'm in the ocean, just a little bit, just a little kind of respect, I guess you could call it. It is fear, but it's a respectful fear. It's I understand what can happen here at any moment. At any moment, you're done. Just the ocean will take you, and that's it. And I feel like a lot of people understood that when I was there, when you're around the ocean, but a lot of people who don't go to the ocean that often don't understand that. They just think, oh, it's the beach, it's lovely, we're going to go enjoy ourselves. And not that you shouldn't enjoy yourself, you should. It's great, it's fantastic. You get to go to the ocean, you get to swim in it, and it's a beautiful day out, and a nice sunny day when it's 30 degrees outside, and you get to cool off in the ocean. Fantastic, excellent. I would recommend everyone go to the beach, go down to Garrettstown, and just enjoy the day down there. But if you're down there a lot, you should respect it. You should know it'll take you if it wants to. Not that it's a sentient being or anything like that. But yeah, we used to use rip currents to pull us out into the ocean, get our next wave, and come back in again. It was the lazy man's way of doing it, if you knew what you were doing. Another stupid thing that I used to do when surfing was we used to go on wipeout sessions in the middle of a storm, which is fucking beyond stupid. In Garrettstown, there are two beaches. There is the main beach, which is just called Garrettstown Beach. It's a big, wide open sandy beach with a wall at the back of it to stop the waves coming over and destroying all the farms. And then if you go further down the road, say further away from Kinsale, which would be the biggest kind of town around Garrettstown, you have Gary Lucas Beach. And Gary Lucas Beach is usually, it's a bit smaller, and it's at a kind of an angle, so it's not facing the southwesterly winds, which create the bigger waves, which is great for surfing. But in a storm, you're going to try and go for Gary Lucas Beach, because actually in a storm, just stay away from the water. Just trust me on that. Just don't go near it. It's not worth it. But I was young and stupid, and so were two of my friends who shall remain nameless. What we used to do is every summer there's like one storm that comes in. It's the tail of a hurricane that originates in the Atlantic, goes to America, and we get like the tail of it here. Does it originate in the Pacific and then come across America? No, I think it originates in the Atlantic, around Cuba and the Caribbean area. It goes up the coast and then kind of comes across the Atlantic and kind of tails off here. But we get like a very muted version of what America gets. We don't get full hurricane fucking trauma situation. It's not a fucking hands-on deck thing. You might lose a roof off a fucking corrugated shed or something like that, but it's not like people's houses are being ripped out of the ground. Unless you got a shitty house, then you kind of you should probably worry about it. But what we used to do is we used to go for wipeout sessions down in Gary Lucas Beach, where the waves were a bit tamer. In a storm, there's no such thing as a tame wave. There are scary waves that you can't really tell what's going on, because the wind is just going fucking every direction. It's just changing directions on fractions of a second. So you can see the waves are coming in and they're frothy at the top, because the top of the wave is just going back and forth and left and right, and it doesn't know what's going on. And then they collapse really late and violently, which is not good for surfing. But we went on what we called wipeout sessions, where we could try and wipe out in the funniest way. And usually the way when you wipe out the funniest way is you try to be serious about it. You try to get the best wave you can, or the best ride you can out of a wave. And trying to stay on one of those storm waves is, for me, it was impossible. If you were like a good surfer, you'd probably be able to manage it. But it was just such the sudden drop. If you didn't go along the wave, and if you tried to stay with it as it collapsed, it would just kick the board out from underneath you, shoot it in front of you, and you gotta remember, you're tethered to that board. So it's tied to your ankle. So the board gets kicked out in front of you, you're slowly falling, well, I say slowly, at the speed of gravity, 9.81 meters per second, you're falling into the water. But the board is kicked out in front of you much faster than that, so it takes your ankle and just flips you sideways. Which looks funny, but is terrifying. And you can be under the water for like 30 seconds. And then, to make it worse, sometimes if you come up out of the water and your board's above you, you usually don't look up. You usually have your eyes closed, because it's salt water and salt will hurt your eyes. Because we'd be out there for hours. You'd come up and the board would hit the top of your head and you go, I'm dead. Just that split second of, I'm dead. That's it. I'm stuck in a cave. Someone above me is holding me down. I'm definitely going to drown here. This is the end of my life. But you never do. You just panic for a split second. And that only lasts for like 1 or 2 seconds. You go, and you're underwater. You try not to inhale the water. But then you realize it's just the board, and you catch the board and you get up on it again. You go back out and you go to wipe out again. Stupid idea. Shouldn't be done at all. But this isn't a defense. This is a stupid defense. We did it because we were very strong swimmers. The three of us were lifeguard trained at the time, and we knew the water. Now it's stupid to say we knew the water when it was in an unpredictable state, and it was stupid to do it. I still think about every now and again, and think, Jesus, I should be dead, or at least one of us should have been like horrifically injured or something. Like we should have learned a lesson from being so stupid, but we never did, and that's like one of the attributing things to why men live shorter lives than women do on average, because we're just like, I'll give it a go. Let's see what happens. We'll have a bit of crack, and sure, one of us might die, but you know, we're just stupid people. The ocean isn't the only dangerous bit of water. When I was, Jesus, I probably should have looked this up before I started talking about it. I was young. I remember it was the day after Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, the book, came out, not the movie. And I was a giant nerd, and I was really into Harry Potter at the time. And anyone who knows me now knows I read pretty much as I can. Almost exclusively fantasy novels. So I was reading Harry Potter at the time, obviously. And Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, the last one, came out the day before me and my family decided to go up the boat, or up the Shannon, which is the longest river in Ireland, in my father's new boat. He just bought it was like a 30-foot cruiser boat. It was enough space for 5 people. Me, my mother, and my father, and my brother and sister. And you'd sleep on deck. The seats kind of folded out into a makeshift bed. But my father decided to take us up the Shannon, and the only problem I had with that was I was not old enough to drink. If I could drink, it might have been the best crack ever, because the only thing that's on the coast, like where you dock boats in most of Ireland, not just on the Shannon, is the dock house where you pay for where you're docking, and a pub. That's it. There's like nothing else around most places where you dock your boat, which is great if you're over 18 and you have a bit of money. You can just dock your boat, go to the pub, spend the day in the pub, get some grub, get langers, and go sleep it off in the boat, and just go to the next one, go back up the ocean again. For me, being underage, it was the most boring 2 weeks of my life. I was just sitting on the boat doing nothing, just fucking taking my time. I read that Harry Potter book, I'd say 7 or 8 times, just ploughing through it because I had nothing else to do. My Game Boy ran out of batteries on like the 3rd day. I was in a grim situation, man. But that being said, I do think it was good crack. One night, on one of our many visits to the pub, we stopped off, got some dinner. Parents had a few drinks. We had a few Coca-Colas and Fantas, I guess. I imagine so. I don't really remember. But the place we stopped was fairly full, boat parking wise. So what you start doing if there's not a pier that you can basically hook onto, is you go next to a boat which is hooked onto the pier, and when you're going back onto your boat, you climb over this other person's boat and get onto your own boat, which is fine when you're sober. But when you're drunk, this can be very, very tricky. because you get onto one boat and it gets unstable. It was always unstable. So you're jumping from a semi-stable pier onto an unstable boat, and then you have to jump from an unstable boat to another unstable boat. And when you're drunk, I don't know if you've ever been drunk, but when I get drunk, I get fairly unstable. And if I'm unstable and what I'm standing on is unstable and I'm trying to jump onto another thing that's unstable, that's just a recipe for a disaster. So what happened was my father was carrying our dog Charlie, rest in peace. He jumped onto the second boat, or onto the first boat off the pier. This was at like 12 o'clock at night. There was no one around, it was just our family. And I jumped onto the boat as well, just behind him, and I was like, I'll hold the dog now and you jump over and I'll hand you the dog and then I'll jump over again. And he was like, no, it's grand, don't worry about it, I'll get it. So he has the dog in hand, just steps on like the railing of the first boat and just goes and slips off and slips straight between the two boats with the dog in hand. So I just switch on my fucking emergency situation awareness thing, which is very weird. Whenever something like that happens where I have to fucking act, I don't know what it is, but the world seems to just go in slow motion. It's just, I don't know why, but everything around me seems to slow down. I seem to be able to think about things a bit more as I'm going. Or else maybe I just got great instincts. I don't know. But I seem to do the right thing at the right time. Anyway. So he's dropped down between the two boats. The dog's gone flying. I mean flying. He's probably like 6 or 7 feet away from my dad in the water, in the river, in the fucking Shannon. And my dad's stuck between the two boats. Just like, there's enough of a gap where he's not going to be crushed or anything, but like he can't climb out because the rim of the boats is like 4 feet above the water and he can't reach it. So what I do is I kind of hook my leg into the railing of the first boat. I go down, I grab the dog with one hand and like just throw him up onto our deck. The dog's freaking out now. Dog has like no idea what's after happening. He was asleep in my dad's arms. Like he's just suddenly awake in the fucking river, freaking out, like just shaking. And I throw him into into our boat, and he's fine there. He kind of sits down and just starts like crying or whatever. And I just catch my dad by like the back of his shirt and just haul him up and put him into the boat as well. And this, I don't know how long this took. Maybe it was like 2 seconds. I just caught the dog, threw him in, caught my father, threw him in as well. But if there was no one there, very easy, my father could have hit his head on the boat, on either boat, and drowned. I know people it's happened to, who have fallen down between a pier and a boat and not gotten out again. It's very easy. It's a very simple thing to happen. It's hilarious now when I'm talking about it, but it could have gone a bad way if there was no one around. If he was on his own, if we went back to the boat after without him and left him walk away on his own, could have been asleep, he could have fallen down. You never know. He'd probably be just clinging to the side of the boat for the whole night and probably screaming for us, but you know, could have happened. Now the dog never went near water again. Charlie was deathly afraid of any body of water for the rest of his life. And he was only a puppy at the time, so he had fucking 8 years of no water. Just didn't want to go to the beach, didn't want to do anything, just scared the shit out of me once. It was a horrible experience and I'm never going near it again. And who knows, maybe he's right to not go near the water, but I don't think so. I fucking love the water. I've been giving it a lot of negative A lot of my stories have had like negative points in it, but I had fun with all of them. You gotta understand that. You gotta understand that I always will go back to the ocean. I may have that little healthy, respectful fear of it, but it's not going to stop me going in. And if it takes me, it takes me. I've kind of come to terms with that. Not that I want to die or anything like that, but if I do die, that's probably a good way to go. Because I do love the ocean. Scuba diving is probably one of the best things I've ever done. Excuse me. The first time I did it was in Puerto Rico, in just off the coast of Spain in the Canary Islands. I went with my father, and the instructor was one American lad. The instructors, were one American lad and one Australian lad, and they were the funniest men I've ever come across. And teach you how to use all the gear and your regulator and your tank and your goggles and your the one thing that I thought was fascinating was on your tank there's like a string of bungee cord wrapped around it with a kind of plastic ball on it, and if you pull the ball and let it go, it just like clings against the tank and it makes a noise. And what that's for is if you get lost or stuck under the water, you can't hear anything you can hear certain things under the water, and that kind of hollow ring that the tank gives off when it's tapped by something hard or plastic can be heard pretty far away. So if you get lost or stuck in a cave or something, you just keep ringing it and they come and get you, and it's fantastic. That's why you should always bring a knife, not to protect you, but so you can take it out of your ankle holster or wherever you're keeping it and just tap it against your regulator, or not your regulator, your tank, and people will know then that you're in distress. But that's aside from the point. That's just a little interesting tidbit in case you were wondering about it. But scuba diving is fantastic. It is just, it's beyond anything I've ever done. Ever since I've been alive, I think I've always liked peace and quiet. And the peace and quiet you get when you're under the water and there's nothing around and all you hear is that is something else. It's fucking next level, calm, serene. It's gorgeous, and you're in this alien world where all the creatures around you can in like relative to them, they're floating around, swimming through the water, which is just amazing. They're totally different alien creatures. They have tails, and some of them have sharp teeth, and some of them have fucking no teeth, and it's crazy. I can't describe it enough. It's just serene silence on an alien planet. That's what it feels like to me. Is just completely different. If you've never gone scuba diving, go. That's all I can say, is just go somewhere really nice with really clear water and loads of fish, loads of crabs, loads of fucking rocks and coral or whatever. If there's something nice under the water, scuba dive. Go see it. It is one of the best things I've ever done, and I can't wait to go again. I'd love to do it again. It's been a while since I've done it. The last time I think was in Tunisia, where I did my accreditation. So I got qualified and I haven't used it since. To be qualified, I think you have to do 9 exams, but they're very straightforward. And at the time, I was a very strong swimmer. As I said, I was lifeguard trained, so I knew the ocean in and out. And we went with well, I can't remember the name of the company, but how you do it is you go out in a boat with 3 Tunisian lads. One is the captain. He's the instructor, the captain of the boat, and just the guy who's in charge, basically. He's a fucking hilarious man. He was so funny. But I can't remember his name. It's really annoying. I should remember his name because he was the best person ever. He found out my name was Jack, and every time I got in the boat, then he'd ask me to stand on the front, and he'd go, Jack, 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 like the Titanic. And this was funny the first time, but after being with them for 2 weeks, it was a bit much. It was like, shut the fuck up, just please leave me alone. But it was funny to other people, because I was doing my accreditation. I got to stay with them for 2 weeks, and there was people in and out doing just regular scuba, not class, but like an exhibition where you just come on, you go float around and go underwater for a couple of hours, and you go away and you don't come back again. That's your package. But I was there pretty much all day, every day on this holiday, which was great because I fucking loved it. So I got to know the crew pretty well, and I actually got involved in teaching people how to use their scuba gear, which is one of the exams in it, is to bring in someone who has no idea what they're doing, teach them how to use their gear, and bring them down into the water, make sure they're stable, make sure they're not panicking, and make sure they're able to follow you along and they understand the hand signals. Like the basic ones are we need to go up, which is thumbs up, we need to go down, which is thumbs down, I'm okay, which is the kind of you make a circle with your index finger and your thumb, and your middle finger, your ring finger, and your pinky finger are up, just like okay, you know, the universal okay symbol. But it was fantastic, and it was in the north of Africa, around Tunisia, before it became a war zone. But it was a beautiful place. I'd love to go back at some point and go scuba diving again. Try and find those lads, see if they remember me. I don't think they would, but it was great. I'll never forget. There was one day that an American fellow came out with us, and I'd been there a couple of days at this point. And the captain, the mad fella, had a very, I suppose, bad habit of spotting, I say spotting in inverted commas, sharks in the water. And so he'd just like stand at the side of the boat and go, shark, 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 and people would go, what? And then there's nothing there. He's just fucking with you, like. And he did a horrible thing to this American guy. So we got the American dude suited up, got all his gear on, got him ready to go. He was mask, regulator, tank, flippers on, and fell backwards out of the boat. I just came up out of the water, head above again, and we were standing on the boat, looking down at him, and we were like, is everything okay? Everything's still on, your weight belt isn't pulling it down, it's the right amount of weight, and your flippers are still on. And he gave us the okay signal, and the captain, who was behind me, did the typical thing of shark, 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 and I shit you not, something came out of the water behind this American guy, just like flew out of the water, and he let out the highest pitched scream I have ever heard. And this was a big dude, like, he was a big American, like, jacked motherfucker, and he went ah, just as loud as he could, and like swam over to the boat and like scrambled up onto it, because something did come out of the water behind him, and he literally pissed and shit himself. It just ruined the fucking wetsuit he was in, and we had to throw it out. Just like, no, which is fair enough if you think there's a fucking shark right behind you. It was a manatee. There was a manatee came out of the water behind him, literally scared the shit out of him. And I never laughed so hard in my whole life. It was cruel and unusual, and he didn't take it very well. He fucking hated us for the rest of the fucking trip. Didn't say nothing to no one. Just like went into the little cabin on the boat, got changed, and sat down at the front of the boat and talked to anyone. We were out there for 4 hours. He was just sitting there, just no, never doing anything again. Fuck you. Ugh. It was cruel and unusual, but it was also hilarious. A lot of my stories are like that. Cruel, unusual, but hilarious. It was a fun time. It was great. I'd love to go back and do it again. I'd love to do it with friends. If I could bring people down, show them what to do, show them where to go. We'd have to go somewhere that was like nice. I've been cave diving, which is not diving in a cave in land, but like underwater caves, and like very small ones. Difficult. You try not to get your regulator. I keep saying regulator. Your tank stuck on anything. Don't get your regulator stuck on anything either. That's bad. But when you're going under these like narrow caves, it's surreal. The only thing you gotta watch out for is eels and groupers, because they'll fucking nip at you. It's different. Like I said, it's a different world down there. When I was first scuba diving, the first place I went to, I was down with the Australian lad, and we were going along nice and slow, and it was a big open area, no caves or nothing, and we just kind of turned around, and there's this fish behind us, which is like double the size of a soccer ball, and just kind of round, and has a big mouth on it. And he just kind of grabs my shoulder and just points at his eyes and points at that fish, which means look at that, be aware of that. And this fucking soccer ball, or this double soccer ball, just passes another fish and just inhales it, just goes, and the smaller fish just goes into it. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? It was a grouper. And groupers will bite you and not let go. It's what he told me after we got out of the ocean. And he was like, I told you to watch it, because if it bites you, you gotta kill it. You gotta like stab it with something, because it's not gonna let go. It's just gonna hold on. And I was like, okay, that's weird. This fucking alien is gonna latch onto my leg and not let go. But luckily enough, we kind of stopped, and I suppose we were kind of big and intimidating enough that it didn't want to fuck with us, and it didn't have any reason to protect its territory, I guess. So it was fine. Jesus, actually, this is where scuba diving and the boating comes in together. One day, me and my father were off the coast of Ireland, off the coast of Cork, in his boat, in his boat. This was years ago now. I was very young, and we were just coming. We went out to, I think it was Fastnet Rock, which is a couple of miles off the coast of Kinsale. Beautiful place. There's a few famous photos of waves. It's just it's a lighthouse on a rock in the middle of the ocean, and there's a few famous photos of waves coming up over the lighthouse. It's fucking in a storm. It's a crazy place. But we weren't there in a storm. We were there on a normal day. We went out, did a bit of fishing, caught a few mackerel. This is back in the days where you could actually catch mackerel, where there was enough fucking fish in the ocean where we could actually catch them and eat them. And we were on our way back, and we saw this boat with a man standing on the front of it, the bow, would say, and waving his arms over his head, trying to get our attention. So we went over to him, and he was fucking frantic. He didn't know what he was doing. He was screaming, and what had happened was 2 of his buddies had gone scuba diving and gotten into difficulty, and they needed someone to go pick them up. They got caught in a rip current. So he kind of pointed us to where they were vaguely. He was stuck where he was because, as I said, he was inexperienced, didn't know what he was doing, and the anchor was stuck. He couldn't pull it up. Anyone with any experience would say, fuck that anchor, cut the thing, and just go save your fucking buddies. But he hadn't been on the ocean before, had never really been on a boat before, and just didn't know what to do. So we went out. We left him there in the boat. We went over on our boat to where the scuba divers were, which was about, I'd say, a kilometre away from that, further down past one of the islands. And we just spotted them with their hands in the air, just above the water. And I have never seen more tired men in my whole life. It is fucking scary. These boys were like 35, maybe near enough to 40, but we brought them over anyway, or we went over to them, and on the back of our boat there's a little ledge that you can use to pull yourself up, and a ladder to put yourself up onto out of the water. And they were so tired. They were trying to swim towards their boat, but the current had caught them and was just pulling them away from it, and they couldn't do anything. They were just taken with it, so they were just trying to fight it and try to stay up. I think they were in the water for a good 2 hours just fighting it. So we got to them, and they came up to that little shelf at the back of the boat, and they just kind of held onto it and floated for half an hour. Like we couldn't pull them up because their arms were bits. I honestly think if I had caught one of their arms and pulled them out, the arm would have come out of the socket. Like, they were absolutely fucking wrecked. It was terrifying to see that these lads, like, who were very experienced divers, made the stupid decision of leaving someone inexperienced on the boat and then going off scuba diving. Never, ever leave a boat with someone who's inexperienced, who doesn't know what to do in a panic situation. That's not saying that the guy who was left on the boat is an arsehole. He just didn't know what to do. Which is fair enough, because how can you be expected what to do if you've never been on a boat before? So that was something that's kind of stuck with me through the years, is be prepared. Always be prepared. If you're going out in the ocean, let people know when you're going to be back. Tell them where you're going. Tell them where you plan to be. Tell them what you plan to do. If you're just going fishing, tell them you're just going fishing. If you're going scuba diving, tell them you're going scuba diving. Tell them exactly your plan and stick to the plan. And bring people with you who are experienced. If you're bringing someone who is unexperienced with you, make sure there's another person there who is experienced. You want backups, fail safes, because, as I keep saying, the ocean will take you, and there's nothing you can do about it. So I think that's kind of all my stories about the ocean. There's probably more that I don't remember, but I've been talking for nearly 45 minutes now. And this is probably one of the longer podcasts, which I know some people like. Some people like the long form, just jibber jabber, where I can just talk for fucking ages. And I can. I probably shouldn't, because eventually I'll just run out of coherent things to say and start making shit up. Like, one day I saved an entire family. No, I didn't. I didn't do that. I've saved people before, but not entire families. That's ridiculous. But yeah, that's my experiences with the ocean. Some of them, anyway. There are more. There's some I can't tell you. Some I shouldn't tell you. Some I want to tell, but maybe another day. Maybe if you meet me in person, I'll tell you all about them. But that's it. That's my love relationship with the ocean. That's why I love it so much. And don't get me started on fucking marine animals. Oh, they're so interesting. They're so fascinating. Sharks alone are fucking amazing creatures. Terrify the shit out of me, but they're amazing. And if we want to talk about marine mammals, I can talk about that for days, man. I can just keep going. Oh no, you're not going to stop me. I was that weird kid that carried around a little pocketbook with me around Garrettstown with it had all the Irish sea creatures in it, and I read that thing cover to cover, I'd say 200 times. I learned everything I could about all these little animals that I could possibly see, and I found all those animals, to be honest. It was full of things like weaver fish and the jellyfish that are around, the common jellyfish, and the what's the one with there's a certain type of jellyfish in Ireland, and they're tiny little blue ones, and they have like a ridge on their back that's used as a sail, so they just sail. they're creatures that are little sailing boats. That's fucking amazing. And that blew my mind as a kid. It still blows my mind now that evolution just went, you're now a sailboat that's kind of alive. Yeah, jellyfish are fucking weird. They're living creatures, but they don't have a brain, really. And like I said, everything in the fucking ocean is a fucking alien. They're just weird fucking creatures. But that's what part 2 to part I don't know how long this series. Like, I could talk about the ocean, as I said, all day, every day, and this may become the ocean podcast at some point. Because I've just been talking like off the hip for like the best part of an hour now of just my own personal experiences with it. If I did a bit of research on things that I know a lot about, like sharks and whales and fish in general and salmon and fucking, and just. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of things about the ocean the ocean, rivers and lakes that I just fucking love. And I don't know why. It just caught me when I was young. And it's been a part of my life ever since. The ocean has. Mostly thanks to my parents for bringing me out to the water when I was young and teaching me a healthy respect for it, teaching me how to swim. Paying for lifeguard lessons, paying for swimming lessons, which was great, which is fantastic. And if you can't swim, I would recommend learning, because it's fucking great exercise too. I think that's enough for one day. And if I don't stop now, I'm just going to keep going forever. So, with that being said, I'd like to thank you for listening. Next ocean episode is going to be a lot more structured. It's going to be based on probably some sort of marine life, or maybe a type of ship or something like that, but something specific about the ocean. Maybe sharks, because I could talk about sharks for a while. And also, I'm going shark fishing at the end of August, so I'm very excited about that, which will be fucking great fun. I've been before. I've caught a shark before, and there's nothing like it, man. It's adrenaline pumping stuff. Just fighting this beast of the ocean. So I'm going to do it again. But that being said, I would like to thank you for listening. Hopefully these kind of the last 2 podcasts have been very fucking rambly, and I'm hoping that kind of style is something that people are interested in, at least. If you're not, let me know. Most of the people who listen to this, I meet at least 2 or 3, or at least once a month. My very dedicated listeners. So if you don't like it, let me know. If you do like it, let me know. Just, I appreciate everyone listening, and I appreciate if you like it. I appreciate it if you don't. I'm trying to get better at it. I'll always will be. Yeah, I've kind of been lazy the last couple of months, where I've done one every 2 weeks. But I've just been fucking busy, and I'm moving house now. So I don't know if there will be one next week, because that's when I'm moving house. Although today I just kind of woke up and did one. I've been talking for 50 minutes. So you never know. The mood could just strike, and I'll just put down some gold, man. And hopefully it'll work out. But yeah, I'm going to stop talking now. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.